Hey everybody, wanted to go over some of the pre-lab considerations for experiment 3 when you're actually in the lab. So this is what I would call the left side stuff. So notes that you're going to put into the left side so that you know to do them when it comes time to doing this. Okay, and so here's what we're going to do. Now, this lab is going to last over a couple of lab periods. There's points at which you should stop or times that you can stop. So keep in mind that knowing when to stop is probably just as important as knowing when to keep going here. So you're going to take these things and you're going to mix them into a round bottom flask. Now, don't get confused when this says standard taper round bottom flask. There's, most ground glass joints in our organic lab are standard taper ground glass joints, so you don't have to think that that's something crazy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a 500 milliliter, but you need it to be pretty big. The other thing to be careful of is the order in which you add this stuff. If you notice, it says add 16 milliliters of concentrated sulfuric acid and 8 milliliters of water. I would prefer that this were written the other way, but remember, you want to put water and then add the acid. Okay, you never want to add water into acid, so the water first, then the acid. And then you're going to put all that into an ice bath, and once it's all nice and cool, then you're going to add 20 milliliters of cyclohexene. We don't want the reaction to happen at high temperatures. High temperatures can cause other reactions to occur, and so in this case, we want everything to be nice and cool, cold even, when we do the reaction. And the way that this is going to work is really simple. You're going to add the cyclohexene, and you're going to mix this for 15 minutes. Okay, no heating, no nothing. Okay, and then after you mix it for 15 minutes, or what we say shake vigorously, then you are going to let it sit for 10 minutes to make sure that everything happens. I think in order to get this done in the proper amount of time, we probably don't want to stop there. We could if we're for some reason taking out of time, or it's taking a little long to get there. But where we want to really get to after the first night is down here in the purification. Okay, we want to get to this part here where we are distilling this and then letting it sit with the sodium chloride for 15 minutes. We want to let that sit in our lab drawer until next time. That's going to be where we kind of break. And so what that means is we have to actually be able to get through this distillation here before we end the night. And this is what's going to take the most amount of time. Okay? And so I will say that in this lab, it becomes difficult because it says distill until the distillate in the condenser is clear with no oily droplets. Okay? Well, what does that mean? That is a difficult thing to judge, but I'm going to let you try to figure that out. Okay? There may be some things that hit, but I will tell you that getting this distilled until there are no oily droplets present is an art form of organic chemistry. Okay, and then when you get through this, that means you're done for the first night. The second night, provided you got all the through there, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do what we call a workup. Okay, and that's what this is here. Okay, this is usually called a workup. Now, I've been known to say, and I will stand by it, is that a lot of times people get paid a lot of money in organic chemistry not to do the actual experiment, but to purify it correctly. Okay? I feel like a lot of times organic chemistry reactions, you just kind of let sit and they just kind of move along and life is good. Purification can be tricky, it can be tedious, it can be not very fun, and so there's all sorts of things that go into that. Okay, and so you're going to do the workup on this by adding ether and taking advantage of the fact that in layers, okay, this is going to be a SEP funnel. It's going to be a bad SEP funnel, but a SEP funnel nonetheless. So what you're going to do is you're going to be able to get anything that's not organic or salt-based, inorganic, dissolved into a water layer, and then anything that is organic into an ether layer, and that's going to, you're taking advantages of the solubility of the compounds. And so all the compounds are going to be dissolved into the ether layer, all the ones that we want. The art of organic chemistry is you remove the water out the bottom, and then when you have removed the water out of the bottom, then you are going to dump the ether out of the top. And then it says take that ether and then put it into a flask. Okay, so then that ether layer is going to go into a flask, which is poorly drawn, but nonetheless, so this is your organic. Now, all that ether layer is still going to have little droplets of water in it. So that's why we add the potassium carbonate here. That potassium carbonate is going to absorb all the water and make that solid go chunky and hard and stuff. And that's how you know when it's all done, is because when it absorbs water, it'll get chunky, and then when it's not absorbing water anymore, it will look like the powdery material. When you add new stuff, it'll look like the powdery material that came out of the bottle. Okay, but now you have a solid in here with all the ether stuff, and so that's when you have to gravity filter the mixture through filter paper into a small round bottom flask. Okay, and then you're going to do the vacuum distillation. Okay, now we're going to use the rotovap to do this, and we're going to make sure that the rotovap is set up so that you don't have to do yet another distillation here. Then the third thing that we will do on the third night is the characterization. We'll do a refractive index, and we will do GC, and we will do IR. We will use that information then to do our write-up and determine whether what we have is pure or not. Okay, so that's the 3 different weeks of the cyclohexanol lab. I hope this helps out, and have a great day.